News 97 and 98 News Director Steve Rubo with you. Do you know who's running to be on the Michigan Supreme Court? Well, I'll let you know there is one person that's running. And his name is Judge Mark Boonstra, and he's already on the Michigan Appellate Court. I want to find out more about him. Mr. Mark Boonstra running for the Michigan Supreme Court, and let's welcome him to the show. Mr. Boonstra, I really appreciate you being with us.
Thank you, Steve. My pleasure to be here.
Well, tell us about who is Mark Boonstra. Why do you think that you'd be good for the Michigan Supreme Court?
Yeah, well, I'm a West Michigan boy. I grew up in Muskegon, and after college and law school, I ended up on the east side of the state for several years. I actually practiced law for 27 years before I joined the court at the Miller Canfield law firm, both in Detroit and Ann Arbor. And then I had the opportunity to join the Court of Appeals in 2012, moved back to West Michigan shortly after, and felt like coming home again, I have to say. I went to West Michigan Christian High School, Michigan State undergrad, Michigan Law School, and grad school. And I've been honored and privileged to serve the people on the Court of Appeals now for 12 years. And I'd be delighted to stay there, but, you know, based on the encouragement I've received from so many others, I have more to offer. And if I can help on our state's highest court, I'm willing to do that. I tell you, the real reason I'm doing this is because I've been encouraged by so many people for some time, actually, to do this. And that ranges from 4 former Chief Justices of our Supreme Court back when we had a respectable court from the Engler years, Justice Taylor, Justice Markman, Justice Corrigan, and Justice Young. My colleagues on the Court of Appeals, trial court judges, lawyers, and just average folks have encouraged me to do this as the right person to help the court, really. I'm not really doing this out of any personal ambition at this point in my career. I'm doing this to help the court. And it's really because, you know, candidly, people don't realize this, but we have 7 justices, and 5 of them, believe it or not, were never judges before they served on our Supreme Court. And they need some help. They need some experience, in my judgment, and people have encouraged me, as someone with 12 years of experience on the Court of Appeals, deciding the very cases that they decide before they get to them, and 27 years of legal practice at a top-notch law firm before that as the person who can help the court. So that's really why I'm running.
Okay, that's interesting. I've been talking with a lot of folks, and they say, you know, we need a conservative or two on the high court in Michigan. And, you know, a lot of the candidates say they would be a judicial conservative. You're saying that a lot of people talk, but do they walk the walk?
Well, I'm saying there are a lot of people who might be judicial conservatives, who might follow the rule of law, who say that they will, and I'm sure that they mean that. And in practice, maybe they would. I guess the difference really is I have a track record. I've written hundreds, if not thousands, of legal opinions that you can read for yourself. They're public records. You can see how I think. You can see how I have ruled in the past, and you can be certain how I will continue to apply that same philosophy and those same principles on the Supreme Court. So, you know, sometimes, how many times have we had justices appointed or elected either to our court or even the U.S. Supreme Court, and they don't turn out to be what we expected? And you don't take that risk with me, I guess, is the difference, because of my track record. You know exactly who I am and how I think.
Okay. Well, I think a lot of people would breathe a sigh of relief there. Yeah, good. I can at least know who he is. And, you know, that's even if you disagree with where you stand, at least we know where you stand.
Yeah, and it isn't so much where I stand on any issues. You know, we don't take positions on public policy issues or political issues, and we can't. We're not allowed to. It's really more a matter of philosophical thinking, knowing what the role of a judge is, respecting the separation of powers, leaving policy making to the policy making branches of government, the legislature in particular. Courts aren't supposed to make the law. We're not supposed to shape the law according to our personal views. We're supposed to interpret and apply the law as it is written, as it is enacted by our policy-making representatives in the legislature, and apply that to the facts of the cases before us. And it's really a matter of respecting the separation of powers and the limited role that judges play in our system of government.
Do you feel that the current Supreme Court right now, do they separate these powers, or is it mostly a court of activism?
Yeah, well, I don't want to be critical or disparaging of anyone personally, but I can tell you from where I sit on the court just below the Supreme Court, they're making some pretty dramatic changes in the law. And sometimes I worry, yes, that it is based on a political viewpoint, that it is in furtherance of a goal to change the law according to personal preferences. And that's true in lots of areas of law, but in criminal law in particular, they're making lots of changes that make it more and more difficult to hold people accountable for their criminal acts and to apply the sentences that our legislature has determined to be appropriate. And I worry that we're throwing out all personal responsibility in furtherance of some political objectives sometimes.
Okay, that's interesting. You don't sound like you're saying, I would be a Judge Roy Bean, the hanging judge. It's not like that, but it would be a little bit more toward the conservative side, you're saying.
I think that's fair to say.
Are you the last conservative judge we've got in Michigan?
Well, we're losing Justice Viviano from our Supreme Court, and that leaves really one justice up there who is considered a reliable and consistent judicial conservative. Certainly, I have a number of colleagues on the Court of Appeals, and there are others in the trial court, I guess, who fit that mold. So I'm certainly not the last, but I think we need more judicial conservatives, more people who consistently and reliably respect the rule of law on our state's highest court. And that's what I hope to bring there.
Well, best of luck in your campaign, and maybe we'll catch up with you a time or two before the actual vote. We have been speaking with Judge Mark Boonstra, who is on the Michigan Court of Appeals, and he wants to become the next judge, the justice, on the Michigan Supreme Court. And we're wishing you the best of luck in that endeavor, Mr. Boonstra, and I really appreciate you coming on with us today.
Thank you so much, Steve. I enjoyed it.